All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What if I told you that Dominican drug dealers, and the Dominican Republic has emerged as a drug trafficking center of the Caribbean. What if I told you that Dominican drug dealers are using fake birth certificates to obtain U.S. driver's licenses to use in their illicit drug trade right here in the United States? Well, joining us once again is Brian Zimmer, president of the Coalition for a Secure Driver's License. Good to see you again, sir.
Good to be here, Steve.
So what is going on? I mean, this is you're talking specifically here about the state of Massachusetts.
Well, the state of Massachusetts has a particular problem. Their registry of motor vehicles, which is the same as the New York DMV, is way behind the times on fraud. For example, the New York DMV does background checks on employees, has done so for more than 10 years. So far, the registry of motor vehicles in Massachusetts doesn't do background checks because the union has opposed it and the previous governor was fine with that. So the new governor is expressing concerns about problems with the RMV. There have been numerous convictions of Dominicans last year tied to the large drug trade in black tar heroin, which is an epidemic in Massachusetts.
Well, first of all, I mean, you would think that this would be pretty big news, but you telling me this, and I consider myself pretty well versed, is the first I'm hearing of it.
Well, it's not unique to Boston. It's a problem here in New York City, but because the New York DMV is on the job about fraud and has frankly been a leader on prevention of fraud going back to 9/11 days, they're much more on their game. Puerto Rico itself announced to all the states, Puerto Rico is not a state, but it's a state-like part of the United States, everyone there is a citizen, that there was a problem with Puerto Rican birth certificates. They require all Puerto Ricans to get new birth certificates, even ones that are 50 or 60, issued post-2010 to try to get a handle on the identity theft problems, because a lot of Puerto Ricans have been victimized by identity thieves from other parts of the Caribbean.
That's proactive. That's great.
Especially the Dominican Republic, which has got all kinds of issues with crime.
So how serious a problem is this? Let's again talk about the state of Massachusetts and why. I mean, the new governor you mentioned, who's a Republican governor, is concerned about this. How long would it take to rectify this situation, to put safeguards in place?
Well, because the Massachusetts RMV is so far behind other states on their internal controls, they don't have any, basically.
That's behind.
Okay, the only time they find fraud is when somebody from outside. The busts that have happened up there have been almost all federal agents. The local Boston police are well aware of it, and the suburban police are well aware of it. But Boston has had traditionally a very hands-off approach to the heroin traffickers. You'll remember the famous Bulger brothers and Whitey Bulger. He was actually a major heroin dealer. His brother was the Senate Majority Leader. They live next door. It's a long-time problem, but it's getting much worse because in last year alone, hundreds of people in Massachusetts around the Boston area died of drug overdoses, both from black tar heroin and from various substitutes for black tar heroin, which are being trafficked in primarily from the Dominican Republic, because the Dominican Republic, as you mentioned, has become the new opt-out site versus the Mexican border. It's pretty easy to traffic in and out of the Dominican Republic. Well, ICE is aware of it, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but as you know, a lot of ICE agents have been detailed off those jobs to do immigrant processing on the southern border. So there's a shortage of manpower, and there's been a tremendous level of neglect within the Massachusetts RMV to this problem. The fact that they didn't even provide guidance that the pre-2010 Puerto Rican birth certificates should be rejected for driver's license applications.
And with the problem you're mentioning, which now you're focusing on the issue of the illicit drugs, what about, I mean, could this translate into a terrorist threat as well?
Yeah, sure, because law enforcement, in our country, you're innocent until proven guilty. So all our law enforcement, the first thing they're required to do by statutes and by common practice is ask for an ID. And they want the state driver's license. That's traditionally what it's like. And so if you have a loose regime where it's pretty easy to score a state driver's license under somebody else's name or under a completely fictitious name, in the case of the Puerto Rican birth certificates, they're providing a social security number that's probably not tied to that Puerto Rican birth certificate. Because all Puerto Ricans get social security numbers at birth just like other U.S. citizens. But then, so there's a breakdown on checking the social security number against the name, and there's a breakdown they shouldn't even be accepting these well-known, out-of-date, often fraudulent Puerto Rican birth
And
certificates.
that leads to all kinds of problems, as you've documented, and problems that maybe haven't occurred yet as well. Brian Zimmer, great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work and keep us informed. All right, folks, when we come back, we are going to have much, much more of the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.